news update on top accolade news. The headlines: Harvard sues Trump administration. Vietnam cracks down on illegal transshipment. India and US push forward on bilateral trade deal. Putin open to direct talks with Zelensky for first time. We start with the focus in politics. Harvard sues Trump administration. Harvard University is suing the Trump administration over what it calls an unlawful freeze of $2 billion in federal research funding, which it says threatened crucial studies on diseases like pediatric cancer and Alzheimer's. University President Alan Garber, in a letter to the Harvard community, accused the government of using funding as a leverage to control academic decisions. The White House, defending the cuts, said taxpayer dollars shouldn't support what it called a gravy train for elite institutions. The lawsuit comes amid a broader crackdown on Ivy League universities, with new reviews launched under a government task force on anti-Semitism and diversity programs. Harvard has rejected demands for external audits and curriculum oversight, calling it a federal takeover. The school would face further funding and visa restrictions, says the move threatens academic freedom and vital research. Turning to economy, Vietnam cracks down on illegal transshipment. Vietnam's trade ministry has issued a sweeping directive to crack down on illegal transshipment of goods, especially to the United States, as it seeks to avoid harsh U.S. tariffs. The move follows rising concerns that some exports, particularly from China, are being rerouted through Vietnam to dodge duties. With the U.S. considering reactivating 46% tariff pause until July, Vietnamese officials have been ordered to tighten inspections of imported raw materials and verify the authenticity of made in Vietnam labels. Still in economy, India and US push forward on bilateral trade deal. India and the United States are closing in on a bilateral trade deal as Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with US Vice President J.D. Vance. Modi, hosting Vance and his family for dinner, emphasized cooperation in trade, defense and technology, while Vance's visit highlighted personal ties with his family, exploring their Indian heritage. Despite progress, agriculture remains a hurdle, and the US continues to press India on trade reciprocity. With Trump expected to visit India for the Quad Summit, both nations are keen to deepen their strategic partnership. Moving to conflict, Putin open to direct talks with Zelensky for the first time. Russian President Vladimir Putin has signaled openness to direct talks with Ukrainian President Zelensky, the first of such indication since Russia's invasion began in 2022. Putin expressed support for peace initiatives, while Zelensky proposed a 30-day pause on attacks targeting civilian infrastructure. This comes after a deadly Russian missile strike on a civilian center in Sumy, which Putin admitted was deliberate, and fresh drone attacks on Odessa overnight. As Ukraine gears up for ceasefire discussion with Western allies in London, President Trump has urged both sides to reach a deal soon, threatening to step back if progress stalls. You are watching the Global News Update on Top Accolade News. Do stay with us. Still to come. Thanks for staying with us. Still in conflict, new ceasefire proposal aims to end Gaza war. Qatari and Egyptian mediators have presented a new ceasefire proposal to end the Gaza war, according to a senior Palestinian official. The plan reportedly includes a truce lasting up to 7 years, the release of all Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners, a full Israeli military withdrawal, and a formal end to the conflict. As Hamas leaders arrive in Cairo for talks, Israel has yet to respond to the plan. Meanwhile, 22 Palestinians were killed in heavy Israeli airstrike across Gaza, with dozens more injured and critical infrastructure destroyed. Tanks have also been seen advancing into southern Rafah. While Prime Minister Netanyahu insists that the war won't end until Hamas is dismantled, the group has shown unprecedented flexibility, even indicating it could hand over Gaza governance to a broader Palestinian body. Moving to religion, Pope Francis' funeral set for Saturday. The Vatican has announced that Pope Francis' funeral will take place this Saturday at 10 a.m. local time in St. Peter's Square, where thousands are expected to gather to pay their final respect. The liturgy will be held by Cardinal Giovanni Battista, Dean of the College of Cardinals. Following the Eucharist, a final commendation and benediction will be held before the late Pope's coffin is carried into St. Peter's Basilica. His body will then be taken to Rome for burial, in keeping with long-standing Vatican tradition. In entertainment, Academy tighten voting rules. The Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences is tightening Oscar voting rules. Starting with the next award cycles, members must watch all nominated films in a category to cast a final vote. The move follows years of criticism over voters admitting they skip major contenders. The Academy also introduced new guidelines allowing refugee and asylum-seeking filmmakers to represent countries other than their own in the Best International Film category. These updates comes ahead of the 2026 Oscars set for March 15th. Now in sports, ex-cricketer Michael Slater sentenced for domestic violence. Former Australian Test cricketer and TV commentator Michael Slater has been sentenced to 4 years in prison after pleading guilty to a string of domestic violence charges, including assault, strangulation, burglary, and stalking. The offences occurred between December 2023 and April 2024 on Queensland's Sunshine Coast. However, Slater will walk free after serving over a year in custody, with part of his sentences suspended. The judge cited Slater's long battle with alcoholism and one of a difficult road to rehabilitation. Once a mainstay in Australia's cricket lineup and a prominent media figure, Slater has faced multiple legal issues in recent years related to domestic violence and mental health struggles. That concludes our global news update for today. Stay tuned for more global news and developments. Thanks for joining us. I am Ojorume Okocha. Connect and engage with us on all our social media handles. Do have a wonderful day.